Now, the Pietermaritzburg High Court is buzzing as former President Jacob Zuma returns to court. It's been almost 2 years since Zuma pleaded not guilty in his 1999 arms deal corruption trial. All eyes will be on Judge Peter Coen today. He's expected to announce if he'll recuse himself after asking for input from the prosecution as well as the defense. Coen said he may have to withdraw given the strong remarks he made when dismissing Zuma's application to remove prosecutor Billy Downer. Our reporter Dasen Thathaih is on that story and joins us now with the very latest. Good morning, Dasen. A very important day it is today for Judge Coen. If we do remember correctly, when he mentioned this of possibly recusing himself, it took the defense and the state by surprise. They really had no response at that moment when he said, perhaps I might need you to make consideration or to consider me recusing myself or make submissions if perhaps I would not be the individual to continue with this case. Just remind us of what happened on that particular day when the defense really had nothing to say.
Exactly, and it was largely because he felt that this trial must be handled in such a way where it must be beyond reproach, as he said, where everything needs to be done in the right way, and that was the thinking behind it. He didn't want to have any loose ends, particularly because of his strong remarks, as he had mentioned. So, on the face of it, it doesn't really appear that either of the parties actually had a position on whether he needs to recuse himself or not. You know that Zuma's legal team has largely been fighting to get rid of the lead prosecutor here, Advocate Billy Downer. That has been their primary focus, and that has been the primary focus for the bulk of the time that we've spent in court since 2021, and that still remains what they are trying to do. Now we know that parallel to this, there's also the private prosecution that needs to be considered as well, which involves Billy Downer. I want to bring in now a legal analyst, Mpumelelo Zikalala. Mr. Zikalala, let's pick up our conversation that we've been having around this issue. It seems that because the decision to consider this was self-initiated, at this point, we know that the parties were invited to make submissions by last year, but that doesn't really seem to be a matter of consideration for them. Am I correct in saying that?
No, not at all. Because they are saying, we are happy with your presiding skills, Judge Coen. You can be able to continue with this matter. However, it also falls upon Judge Coen to then say, I may be privy to information that you don't know, that I haven't been able to share with you, that if that information were to get out, it would taint how this particular matter has been handled. As a presiding officer and as a responsible one, as one who has handled this matter beyond reproach, I must be able to protect the integrity of these proceedings, but most importantly, protect the rights of the accusers per Section 35. So the right to a fair trial even means that if I have certain information that I feel must be out there in the public, must be known by all litigants, I must be able to do that so that we don't find ourselves in trouble at a later stage. So I think that's the basis of his particular application. He may come back today and say, I've looked at all the facts and all the instances, everything is fine, I can be able to preside over this matter.
If we go back to both these parties and you have to look at it very superficially, you would say that both of them claim to want the same thing. The NPA says that we don't want delays, we want the trial to move forward. Zuma's legal team says the same thing, but except we don't want Billy Downer involved. So with that in mind, and then we also look at the other litigation happening, do you think that that is necessarily true? Meaning that both parties want this to move expeditiously?
I think they do. It's just that the terms and conditions in which they would want to move this thing to move into are different. For the team of the former president, they're simply saying, if Advocate Billy Downer is removed, then we can be able to continue with this matter. On the other side, the NPA is saying, no, we want our lead prosecutor to remain and deal with this matter. We are not going to be dictated to by any litigant as to which prosecutor is going to prosecute or not. That's a stalemate in which cannot be resolved by any court, something that they need to decide on their own, and the legal practitioners based on the instructions and brief and mandates in which they're going to receive from their particular clients. But it shouldn't matter at this stage as to where the process is. Our law is very clear as to how these matters should be handled. We have the Constitution, we have the Criminal Procedure Act, we have all the other case laws that are there. They shouldn't be bothered in any matter. All which is required is a presiding officer who's going to listen to the evidence, be able to pronounce on the evidence, and then that's it.
After all of the unsuccessful bids by Mr. Zuma to in fact get rid of Billy Downer, with the last decision by the Concourt in December, does this now effectively mean that he's run out of options in that regard, in that particular trajectory?
We cannot say so conclusively. There may be other reasons that we are not privy to, in which you cannot come and raise and say, but there are certain things which have been there. For example, you can come back and say, when I made this application previously, there was no other pending litigation which was taking place, so it has only come to light at a later stage. Do you still think that this particular prosecutor is charged to prosecute, despite the fact that you've limited it to instances where it is purely administrative? We are not only dealing with this matter, there are other criminal proceedings which are there. And the response from the NPA could be, he's still innocent in as much as you're innocent. So unless if there was a guilty verdict which was in which was found guilty in, then you can come back and raise those particular points. But for now, we're dealing with an innocent individual, and we should not conflate issues. So that's something in which the court will have to deal with at a later stage. But for now, I do not think there's anything impeding this particular matter from continuing.
Just last one from me around the two. There are only two ways that today could go. One is that the judge will recuse himself or not. But depending on how it plays out, what are the two possible parts going forward for this trial, depending on which decision is taken today?
Let's start with the non-recusal. And then the date for trial is then set. The state of readiness of both parties is determined again, just to make sure that you must state on record that you are indeed ready to deal with the trial. And then after that has been done, that particular time will then come in. Let's remember, there's a whole term, I think it's term 2, from the 11th of June, the 30th of April up until in June. You still have the time to deal with, and you can come back for those 10 weeks and be able to deal with the matter. If there is a recusal, and this is accepted by both parties, which is not dependent on their acceptance, by the way, then the judge president will simply say, I will make sure that by the time, on the next occasion you come into this matter, there's going to be a fresh judge who will be able to hear the evidence and be able to move with the first witness as we begin.
Thank you so much for your time, Phumelelo Sikalala. They will definitely be continuing that conversation with him on the other side of this. Fundo, I must also tell you that although the former president is not obligated to be here, that's what Judge Piet Koen had said in the previous sitting last year. He says that there was no need because this is just a matter that needs to be discussed with the parties, and the accused in this matter doesn't need to be here. We have also seen members of his security detail around here, so who knows if there will be a surprise appearance or not. We'll keep you posted. We will be bringing that coverage to our viewers live shortly.